Okay, in this lesson we're going to look at a few things in financial maths. So the first questions that you're going to be looking at, they call it special rates. So it's mainly, a lot of it is pretty common sense. So I'll just put an example here and we're going to go through it. So Jeff is a waiter in a restaurant and works 8 hours most days. Calculate what he earns for 8 hours work on the following days. And so if we've got here question Monday, he receives his standard rate of $21.30 per hour. So if I was just working that out, I'm simply just going to do $21.30 times his 8 hours a day, and that's going to give me his earnings. Okay, so I get $170.40. All right, with the next one, B, it says on Sunday he will be paid double time. So if he's going to get paid double time, that means his rate will be twice as much per hour. So you times that by 2, and then you times it by the 8 hours he's going to work, because it's saying he's going to work 8 hours a day. So we'll do that one. So he's going to end up with $340.80. And you would hope if he's working double time, he's going to work earn double the amount of a normal day, which you can see there that this times 2 equals that. So that's another way to test it. You're on the right path. And then if we do the last one, where it says a public holiday when he's paid double time and a half. So double time and a half means you're earning at 2.5 rate times the hourly rate. So you've got $21.30. You're getting that at times 2.5 rate, and then he's still working, they're saying the 8 hours. So we do that on the calculator. Okay, so he ends up with $426 for that day on the public holiday. So most of the questions in this first chapter that you'll need to do, very very common sense. Just what you think you would do is how you do it. All right, so the next part of our financial maths is we're going to look at simple interest. So simple interest or flat rate interest can be calculated. Now we can calculate it using these formulas. So this is where the interest, you can count how much simple interest is calculated using this, and then it tells you how. But first of all, what is interest? So what happens is you either invest money, so that means you have a certain amount and you give it to, say, the bank, and the bank will give you a certain percentage for giving you that money. So they go off and invest it in something where it's going to make money. So you'll gain a certain amount. Now with simple interest, the amount you gain over time is the exact same amount. So it's a flat rate, meaning it doesn't change. So say you're going to earn $20 a year, you'll earn $20 a year every year you have that investment. That's what simple interest is. Okay, or it could be a loan, and the same, you're just going to pay that same amount every year for the loan. All right, so that's what simple interest is. So if we wanted to calculate how much interest in a scenario, we're going to pay or get is we can use this interest equals PRN. Now P is the principal. So principal means the original amount borrowed. So you might like to call it that, the original amount. All right. And then the R, the big R, stands for the interest rate, usually given as a percentage. And N is the number of times you're going to pay interest. So if you're going to go for 5 years, N might equal 5. Okay, so often you'll see this interest rate referred to as PA. That means per annum. Per annum is another way of saying every year, the same room. So if you have 5% per annum, it's 5% every year. And what you've got to be careful or remember that 5% written as a decimal is 0.05. All right, so let me do this example with you. So Zach borrows $3,000 at 2 years at 9% per annum simple interest. So how much interest is charged? What you should do when you're reading these questions, if you're doing simple interest, is try to put the letters above the information. So he borrows $3,000. That's my principal for 2 years. So remember, N is how long? So we've got N equals 2. Now it's 2 years, but it's getting paid every year per annum, so that's okay. So here I've got the rate. So I'm going to change that rate to a decimal, to 0.9, and then I'll write. So when they ask me how much interest, I'm going to write the formula. I'm going to write it out every time I do a question so that I can remember it off by heart. So it's 3,000 was P times the rate, which is 0.09, times 4, because it goes for 4 years. So this guy, he's borrowing the investment, so he's going to have to give the bank lent him money, but he has to pay extra for borrowing this money, and that's the simple interest. So this is what we're calculating now, is his interest. So that came to 1,080. So that's how much interest. So he paid 1,080 interest over the 4 years. In 4 years. Okay. If that's question, this is A. So in B, what's the total amount he must repay? So the interest is the extra thing. So if you want to know the total amount is always your principal plus your interest. So really he has to pay back what he borrowed off the bank, which was 3,000, plus he has to pay back the 1,080. So he's paying back 4,008. That's the total amount he's paying back. Okay, so let's do another one. Anthony invested $1,000 at a simple interest rate of 4.6% per annum. So that's a yearly rate. I'm just writing that down to make sure. Going to change this to a percentage. Now remember, 4% is 0.04, so 4.6 would be, as a decimal, 0.046. How long, so this is the question, how long must he invest? So for us, that's the N is the question. In order to earn at least $100 interest. So when they say they earned $100 interest, that's the I. They're giving you the I. Okay? So we've got a few things that we know and one thing that we don't know. So if you write the rule out that you know, so we know I equals PRN. So you know the interest, so I'm going to pop that into my equation. I know the P, it's 1,000, and I know the rate, which is times 0.046, and I don't know what N is. So if you're trying to find N, we just really want to get this one by itself. So that means what you want to do is you want to move these two, which are timesing over here, back over the equal sign to get them to get this N by itself. So if it was timesing on one side of an equal sign, it actually divides on the other side. So it'd be 1,000 divided by these two, like that, equals N. So really, we could even write out little formulas to show. So if we're asked to find N, it actually equals I divided by PR. If we're asked to find the rate and we have everything else, it'd be I divided by PN. If we're asked to find the principal, it'll be the interest divided by the rate and the N. Okay, so there's a couple of formulas. So here you can see, I've done that one. I've done the rate divided by that. I'm going to work that one out. Okay, so I end up, when I divide that, I go 2.17 equals n. So because the rate was a per annum, this is years. So it was 2.17 years to earn $100 on this investment at simple interest. All right. So the next thing we're going to look at is compound interest. Now, the difference with compound interest is that the amount that you earn when you're investing, or the amount that you pay if you're getting a loan, is constantly changes. It depends on what your new total is. So if you have a look at this table, we'll go through one together. If you think about compound interest, so they're going to say, all right, interest is paid when $5,000 is vested at 11% compound annually for 3 years. So when they say annually for 3 years, and it's getting compounded 11% per annum, means every year they're going to give you 11% of the amount you have in your bank account. So let's have a look in the first year. If we look at year 1, we've got $5,000 and we're going to get 11% interest on that. So I'm going to times it by 11%. So 5,000 times by 0.11, and I'm going to get the interest that I earn in the first year. Okay, so in the first year, that's 550. So in the first year, you earn 550 interest. So at the end of that first year, you actually now have 5,550 in your bank account. So when you come down to do the next year, in year 2, your principal, or what you're beginning with, is the 5,550. So if I change, say this is year 2, so when I go to year 2 and I go to work out the interest, it's going to be the 5,550 times 11%. So you can see you're compounding. You get that compound, you put the next amount onto it, and then you get interest on that new amount. So if we do that, that'd be 5,550 times 0.11. So we do that on our calc. Okay, and we end up with $610.50. So my new amount in my bank account is going to be, I'm going to have the original amount I had at the beginning of the year, and I'm going to add the interest, and the total value will be $6,160.50. So then you can see, if we go into this third year, this is the amount we've got, and we're going to go and find 11% of that. So year 3 would be 6160.50 times 11%. So 6160.50 times 0.11, and that equals 677.66. So 677.66. So then you add that on to what you had at the beginning of that year, and you will get your total amount. So you can see that it's getting bigger every year. You're getting more interest, you're earning more interest. Okay, so, and you can see that this is like, it's getting bigger and bigger. It's compounding and the amount is going up. So that's compound interest, where the difference between simple, it was always the same amount being added. But if you look here, compound, it's a different amount getting added. It's changing consistently as we go along. So we have a general formula. So this is the formula. So this A here is the amount you have in total after a certain period of time. After a period of time. That's what the A stands for, the final amount. Okay, so then we've got this formula. So P is still the principal, or you might say the original amount. And the R is still the interest rate, is the percentage rate as a decimal. And the N is the number of times. So before we were just going, year by year, but we don't want to do that when we get, because often home loans will be compound interest. They'll go for over 30 years, which will be there for ages if we have to keep on adding or things like that. Or same with investments. You might have your investment for, you might have it for 5 years, but you might get the interest added on daily. So it will take a lot to keep if you just have to keep doing step by step. So we can use this formula here to save us a little bit of time. So let's try this example down here using the formula. So find the final amount value. So that's their way of saying A of a 40,000 investment. So here's my P. I invested at 7.5%. So that means this is my rate, but I'm going to change it to a decimal. So 0.075 because it's percent per annum. Now it's compounding. This is very important. So it's only compounding it's compounding once a year, because your rate has to match how many times you're compounding it. So because it's going yearly, I can use the yearly rate. If it was compounding monthly, so they're working out that interest monthly, I'd have to change my percentage rate to monthly. So we need to be careful. At the moment, most of your questions are going to match, but you need to be careful in future years. So it's compounding annually for 8 years. Well, I know N is 8. Okay, so how much interest is earned by the investment? So, so this is question A, sorry. Find the final value. So I'm going to find the final amount. So I'm going to use the formula, which is 1 plus R to the power of N. So I'm going to go the principal, which is 40,000. And then I'm going to times it, and I open up my brackets, and it'll be 1 plus the interest rate, which was 0.075, to the power of 8 years. So you'll need to do this on your calculators. Okay, so when I do that on the calculator, I get 71339.11. I'm always, when I'm talking about money, I'm always just doing 2 decimal places because of its cents. You go to the nearest cent. So that's why I'm rounding it, even though they don't. Now, if they ask in this second question here, B, they've asked how much interest is earned. So how much extra did this person get from investing their bank? So if you think about it, interest would equal the total amount they have at the end minus what they put in the beginning, which is the principal. So if I look at this one, he had 71,339.11, and I'm going to minus the 40,000 he gave the bank to begin with. So really he has earned the interest of 31,391.11. So that's how you can work out the interest he's earned for compound interest. All right, so you might need some help on your calculator. Just give me a buzz and I'll show you how to do it if you're stuck on that part.